Hi, everybody. Celia Waterhouse here. Thank you so much for joining us today with a few of our OnPoint mentors. Today's panel discussion, we're going to be discussing a topic that's very current, very much in people's minds right now. It's called Beating the COVID Blues. Our mentor is going to be talking about some mental strategies and some tools that can help you get through the funk and into the brand new year. So we have our guest host joining us, Dr. Dave Tuck. Thank you, Dave. Dr. Dave is a mindset and manifestation specialist. He's a doctor of chiropractic. He's a teacher and an explorer. But before I turn it over to Dr. Dave, I want, can each one of you just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about why you wanted to join this panel and discuss this topic specifically on COVID blues and mental strategies and wellness strategies. We'll start with you, Shay.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. I am grateful to be here with all of you and to have the conversation. I think conversations help us to become stronger. My name is Shay Marville, and I am the CEO of Ilze Coaching and Training. I specialize in meditation and yoga, and I've had the great privilege of teaching meditation for 20 years and practicing yoga and meditation for 34 years. And I work with corporations and professionals around stress reduction, personal development, and empowerment. I'm really engaged in motivation, especially right now. So thank you for being here.
Great. Ilze.
I'm Ilze Alberts. I am from South Africa, and we are in the middle of a wonderful hot summer. I'm a psychologist and a life strategist. I'm an internationally published author and a television presenter. And in fact, the TV reality series that I was the anchor of, it's called Saving Our Marriage, is getting aired over the next 13 weeks from the 6th of January. So it's a big event. I'm very excited for that because it's an amazing way to really reach many people, many relationships, and showcase how things can work. This is in fact the second season of this show already, and we are in the midst of a second lockdown in South Africa because there was a second increase of COVID infections. In fact, at this very moment, my husband is in day 7 of being tested positive with the COVID. So it's very important for me to understand, to also share what it is that we're doing to beat these COVID blues as we are in the midst of it right now.
Thank you, Ilze. Paul.
I'm Paul Campbell. Thanks for having me. I am a father of 6 children. I have 5 girls and 1 boy. So that's a big part of my identity and a big part of my time. I also spend time as an entrepreneur, mainly in business, the first part of my life, adult life. I've been CEO of an aerospace company that made air conditioners for airplanes and other things. Now I'm CEO and owner of an oil and gas company that operates in several states in the U.S., and we maintain and service oil and gas pipeline. Also a social entrepreneur. I started a school in rural Oklahoma that's won quite a few awards, but it's really changing a lot of lives for a lot of poor rural kids. So I'm really proud of that. Now, the reason I wanted to be here was really just to hear you guys talk and how you cope with the blues. I know I've struggled with the blues here over the past, especially 90 days. So I'm really just excited to be part of the group and listen and learn from you folks.
Okay, Dave, take it away. Introduce yourself, talk about why you wanted to lead this group.
Yes, let's talk COVID, shall we? It's obviously a hot topic, and the way things look, it's probably going to be with us for a little while longer, apparently. So I know that since it's here in this area, I'm in North Texas. Around March is when we really started seeing the effectiveness of COVID. I own a chiropractic and wellness centers here in North Texas for about 28 years, and Jordy never seen anything like this. And I know that each of us, either our personal lives or we know someone who's been affected by COVID. And I've seen with my clients and that, it affects the relationships, and it can affect the business. It affects your financial status. And also the big one is it affects our health and well-being. And so coming from a health and wellness background, that was one of the hot topics that we've been working with our clients and patients on here, is how do we keep ourselves healthy and well, and what's our best way to prevent even getting COVID, and how do you keep your business running? Fortunately, we were an essential business, so we were able to stay open throughout this. But so many of my clients and patients that had businesses had to shut down, and we really saw that it affecting their emotions. It affected their whole life and their family, and they're still having obviously struggles as we hit this second wave. It seems like coming on. And so I think this topic is really great for all of us on this panel, that we can offer some information to maybe help people out there that are listening, that are really struggling with this and really having some personal issues from COVID. And how can we enlighten them on how to, break out of the blues and actually capitalize on what's going on in the world right now. And there's plenty of opportunities out there to grow your business or grow personally from this experience. And I just think that us together can offer some information to help people kind of work through this and actually live an inspired life in spite of COVID. And I know I've worked myself a lot of emotional stresses as my business was affected for about a week or two, but things turned around really quickly as we shifted our mindset with COVID. And so I can share some of that as well. But let's hear from some of you guys. What are some of your ways you've been handling the COVID blues and helping you continue to stay successful in your business despite of all that's going on? So, Paul, I'd like to ask you, I know you've got some successful business going on. So how have you maintained your business success and well-being throughout this?
The well-being part's probably been the hardest part for me. The business we could talk about that too, but I have of my 6 children. I have 2 that are in Tampa, Florida, and I'm in Oklahoma City. Amelia and Kate, and they're 10 and 11 years old. I talk to them every day, and my intention was to be with them on Thanksgiving and Christmas. So the COVID blues has brought me where I've missed like the physical touch and being in the presence of my children. And probably the main thing that's worked for me on coping with that is realizing, especially as a man in the US, being okay with being sad. Like I was laying in my bed on Christmas night feeling really sorry for myself, and I was really blue. I mean, like really just hurting, in so much pain physically. Like I felt in my heart, and I was crying a lot, and it just hit me that this was absolutely okay to be sad. You're missing 2 humans that you adore, and the fact that you can't be with them on something that they deem as important, Christmas Day, as well as I do, was just really tough. So just having that realization alone brought me to a space of gratitude for them and for just being sad. So that's probably the biggest takeaway for me in the past 60 days is just kind of leaning into that feeling, being okay with it instead of burying and running away from it.
Ilze, how about you?
Well, as I mentioned, my husband is currently in day 7, or today it's day 7 of his COVID infection, and he brought quite a change to our holiday plans. In South Africa, it's now in the middle of summer, so December is our summer holidays. And even though we are in COVID in South Africa as well as the rest of the world, I had my children coming for Christmas to be with us. And when he was tested positive, they all had to get on trains and in the cars to return back to their homes. And it was, as you are saying, I have also have felt really deep disappointment and pain. And I thought, this is so freaking unfair. I have the cutest 2-year-old granddaughter, and it was so hard to see them leave all of a sudden. But what I really admire so about my husband is from the moment he started to feel any symptoms, and even before he tested positive, he started to isolate himself to protect the family. And I can see that the way that we will beat any emotional distress, any challenges, is if we start to play together as a team. And at this very moment, we are in isolation in our home. I am in a completely different part of the house than he is. We might go outside and sit in the sun 2 meters from each other that we can have a quick discussion. We Zoom each other and we speak on WhatsApp video. But it's weird to be in a house with your husband and not do life with him because you have to isolate yourself with him. So I have to say this is a very interesting experience, and there were moments I felt very angry with COVID. I thought, how can it come and just change things for us so much? But we sat together one day in the sun, in our 2 meters distance from each other, and we went through all the benefits for us as individuals and for us as a family that COVID started to hit our family. And when we looked at the benefits for us, and not only the challenges, it calibrated our minds. We realized the one thing to beat this is to keep our minds really strong. Because if your mind gets weak, your minds go into a victim mode, the body follows the mind. Then the virus will just have a field day and will possibly spread even quicker to the rest of the family. So we are focusing so much on keeping our minds strong. And that to me is one of the most strongest, one of the ways that I help my clients is to help them to have a very strong mental mind model to know how to overcome their challenges. And to know how to beat the challenge of COVID is to really see that there are some blessings in it as well. And to dig deeper to find it. Because when you see it, you start to look differently at it. So it's a challenge, but I can also see a lot of support coming from loved ones, phone calls, people caring. You actually see all the people that surround you with their deep love and care.
That's a great point. One of the things I've noticed is, a lot of people have, home has become very important now because it's a place where we're all home more than we ever probably have been because of COVID. And so it's become a place for everyone to kind of meet and introduce themselves to home and family again. So that's just a great point. What about you, Shay? How about yourself?
Well, you all know that my mother passed away in July. She went out on a spectacular day, July 4th. And it matched her personality, a very spectacular person. And she died as a result of contracting COVID, and she died very quickly. And it was quite a shock because she was a very active human being who was doing a lot and of great service to her community and especially to our family. And she was also the matriarch of our family. So she was the person who had moved everyone from Guyana to England to Canada and had inspired a whole generation of people for 85 years. So the loss, I would say, One, I'm only in the early stages of grief. Two, I'm served by the relationship we had together, which reminds me every day that how you are in the present with the people that are in your life right now, no matter what's happening, really matters. One of the things that I'm grateful for, and I'm grateful for so much about my mom, is that we had a friendship. And excuse me. And I think that right now, during this COVID experience, um, friendship really matters. Friendship between partners, lovers, and business partners, friendship between friends, like growing and seeding new relationships within a relationship really matters. And finding new ways to communicate with someone. So, obviously, I am deeply changed and affected by the loss of my mother, who was also my friend. But I have to say, I'm also very inspired by her life. She was somebody who considered herself an imperfect person, still trying to create things. And I think that's a really good lesson during COVID, because for so many of us, our lives have been transformed in some way, whether it's, economically, it's our health, it's our social relationships, the list is very long. But, and we can say, oh, be grateful, be grateful. But if you can't feel gratitude internally, if you don't have a relationship with the thing you're grateful for, it's hard to be present with it. So I think one of the things that I've learned from her is about being present right now. And because I was a meditator prior to COVID, and because I've had such a long history as a practitioner, I do feel that my practice has served me. And what I mean by that is not like in a Pollyanna, like everything is great kind of way, but in a way that I can visualize that we're walking down a road, and on one side of the road, there are the homes and the houses and rooms of grief, right? And on the other side of the road are opportunities, new ideas, new kinds of relationships. And some days I'm on one side a little more than the other. And I think we have to be okay with that. We have to kind of be okay with the fact that some days we are more sad than others. Let the sadness rise up in us. Let us not be afraid to feel it and then let it go, then release it so that something else can grow inside of us. And so, I'm also being very careful about my language. I was using, because I coach people, and I was listening to the trauma, listening to my own trauma, listening to the drama of the moment. And I think we have to be not cautious, but sensitive to our language and the stories that we're telling ourselves. So even though this is a time of trauma and transformation, it's also a time of rebirth. It's a time of revelation, right? It's a time of journeying through things that are hard and then trying to imagine something else. So I I feel very much like this COVID experience is a deeply spiritual walk for me personally. And I think that all of us have to reposition what this thing is for us and be like, it's not a job. It's not just about losing money. It's not just about not seeing your family. There's opportunity here for new growth. And can we bear that growth? Can we be open to that growth? And can we sit with the things that are uncomfortable and know that we can still get through them. So I think, the mind piece is so important. So important.
Yeah. I think the one word that stands out from what you said, which is thank you for sharing, is transformation. And the thing that I've seen help most of my clients through this is having them see that there's really nothing missing. Things have just been transformed into different forms. And so learning to look at the new forms of relationships that are coming out, and the new forms of business that are having opportunities for us to grow, and the new forms of us learning to take better care of ourselves, and learning to tap into our own personal space and being present with ourselves. And I think one of the biggest challenges is learning how to stay grateful and present, even though there's chaos going on. How do you turn chaos into calmness? Well, I know that a lot of things that have helped me personally and my clients is tapping back into the breath. I've learned probably over the last several months how to manage your emotions through your breathing, and seeing both sides of I like your analogy about seeing both sides of the street, where you're always going to have, no matter what's going on, COVID or not, you're always going to have a balance of support and challenge and positive, negative. And so I think it's about learning to recognize that COVID has come in and it's offered us a new set of challenges, but there's also new sets of supports and there's new sets of opportunities. So it's about shifting your mindset so you can see both sides of the street, where you can see that even though I'm being challenged here, I've got new support coming in. Even though my business is being stressed here, I've got new opportunities to grow here. So it's about shifting the mindset to adapt to the environment and improvise in your life what's going on so you can overcome what's going on in the world. Because we can control our thoughts, where we can't control the external world. And so learning to control your emotions more effectively, I think, has been a really great lesson for a lot of people throughout COVID. And if we can take this through, even when COVID goes away, I think we're all going to be on a different level of consciousness because of COVID. So I really appreciate, in my own personal life, the opportunity to learn how to master my emotions more effectively and navigate these challenges. Because even before COVID, there was challenges. And even after COVID, we're going to have challenges. So COVID's been a beautiful teacher, I think, for a lot of people to help learn to master our emotions. We can master our lives. So any comments on that at all, anyone?
I do believe that it is asking of us to become more flexible and more adaptable. I keep on seeing the willow trees next to the river beds that just have the ability to flow with the wind. And the more we learn to be that flexible and go with what life is bringing us, because you cannot change what is happening. And the more you fight it, the more you put yourself into an angst, and your body becomes more extended because of your negative emotions. So life brings us many different surprises and many different challenges, and it's our ability to use the power of our minds to become adaptable and to look for that part of us that know how to bend into the flow of things. So it's hard at times, and I know that many people will listen to this and say, but we didn't ask for this, and we feel that things are so out of our control and we've been controlled by all the decisions made for us, but we still have choices. And the choice is 100% how you look at things and how you respond to it. Because it's not what happens to you, it's what you do what happens to you.
So true.
Dave, I loved what you said about nothing's missing. It's just transformed, right? So my husband and I are very social with the community. I sit on the board of music at the university here. And so we're constantly going out to concerts and events and things like that. But we don't have that ability now. And so I have found community and the building of community, which is what I so love to do, And I've thrown it into, like, for example, OnPoint Mentors, and building this community of amazing mentors that we have. And the community's not just in one city now, it's all over the world. And finding avenues, and thank God for technology now that we're able to get together and congregate and discuss and continue to help and to serve, which is what we all love to do, but as a different type of community. So yeah, the community of the physical 3D sense may not be there, but now my 2D community is more global and larger. So I think I love that, again, when you said, nothing's missing, it's just in a different form. But also everybody that knows me knows I'm an introvert, even though I love community. And so I think my other important piece is, I think it's important to know who you are and what drives you, what your values are, what brings you joy. And being an introvert, I love being out in nature. And I think most of you know, my husband and I recently decided that because of COVID, not just because of COVID, we actually were looking pre-COVID, we wanted to get a little place in the mountains that we can just open the back door and let the dogs run out and go for a hike. So we got ourselves a 1924 log cabin in the woods. And we just moved into it. Not permanently, but not full time. But it has brought so much just peace and calmness and tranquility to our physical selves as well as our mental selves, being out in nature, because I know that is something that feeds my soul. So if you understand who you are and what feeds your soul and what gives you joy and solace, go find that thing and make it happen. So those are the kind of things that, I think are so important, is to understand what you're made of and what drives you and your values.
Yeah. Great point. Yeah. I noticed, I know in my business, whenever it hit, it was widespread panic for a couple of weeks there. And I saw in the statistics shot down really quickly. And I took our team and I said, hey team, let's don't panic. Let's regroup and let's tap back into our purpose. Why are we here serving people? What is our ultimate purpose for being here? And how can we capitalize and serve even greater number of people in spite of COVID? And that creative collective thinking sparked so many new ideas in the company for how to reach more people, how to keep the company going in spite of COVID, and how can we actually capitalize on this? And from that creative thinking, we had just a really super year, even better than last year in spite of COVID. And I know it's because of the mindset that I think we're all agreeing on, that our mindset is dictating our destiny. So no matter what's happening in our lives, we can learn to master our mindset and control that, and we can control our destiny. And no matter what's thrown at us, we can adapt to it and overcome. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. We're seeing a lot of people being super successful through COVID and sparking new business ideas and new ways of growing their social network through social media. And so there's no shortage of opportunities out there. It's just a matter of getting into the mindset of finding those and asking the quality question: how can you serve? And how is this serving me and benefiting me? How can I capitalize this? How can I get my values met still, even though COVID's here?
Yes.
So it's a great point.
There's some, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, we're good. That's great.
There's something else, there are a number of things. Like, one, I feel that this is an invitation to our humanity, because this is the first time in our human collective history that we all have a similar story in a way. It is not gender, it's not race, it's not, that's all part of it too. But all of us, no matter where we are in the world, we all have some definition of what COVID means to us. And we also now, because of technology, have the capacity to hear stories and connect with people we would never connect with before. And I think we are bigger because of that. So if we can reposition COVID, and also be safe, right? Still look after ourselves and be careful. But if we can reposition COVID mentally, and we can visualize something different, and that difference is creating a new kind of literacy for many of us, new types of skills in terms of our resilience, in terms of how we have to pivot and adapt, right? And then the other piece of it is emotion. Our emotions, you can say, we're trying to master or understand. That's also a way. But we also maybe need to also feel. So many of us were shut down before COVID. We're closed down. And now, because of this, we know that certain people are important to us. We know who is not important. We know what is important to us. One thing I really appreciate about something my mom did was she wrote lots of letters and notes. And there were times when she was immigrating to Canada where she was away from us, when I was in England and she was in Canada. And she wrote so many little letters that I now have, that I found. And so, there's things that we can do in an analog way that can also benefit our mental agility through writing, but sharing our feelings and letting people know how much we care and how vulnerable we feel. This is an invitation, this experience right now, to be bigger.
Totally agree. Great point, Shay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think building on to that, what you said, Shay, what COVID's brought me personally, several things, but one of the biggest impacts for me is perspective. Man, so much before COVID, and still today, I'm sure, but I know for today for sure, but so much that I would worry about and get caught up in the grief side of the road, to use your analogy, is just made up. And as a top executive and business guy, we're trained to manage risks. And so what it's allowed me to realize is I did spend so much of my time worrying about things that would never happen, likely to never happen, but they were big risks to the company. So I had to worry about them and plan for them. And what COVID has brought to me is, wait a second, a white man in the US, so that brings me inherent privileges. I've got not plenty of money, but I got money. I've got a house. I've got 6 kids that love me. That's okay. That's really all I need. Everything else is just something that's been made up by society that I think I'm striving to go get. So it's been a huge wake up for me. And I agree with you 100%, Shay. I think it's absolutely the first time that humanity can come together around one thing, because it's the first time we've all been connected through technology. So I don't know what future holds. None of us do, but I'm inspired about where we can go and as a society.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is right. This is right. And I think we're awake. We're very awake. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. But like I'm feeling things, right? And other people are feeling things, and we're not kind of walking away from looking at each other's feelings and seeing each other and saying, I don't know, you don't, like, we just don't know what exactly is the answer here, but we're trying to stay the course. And all of a sudden we're invested in other people surviving beyond.
That's it.
This is powerful, really powerful.
Yeah.
it's huge. Like I've been looking at the company and like, why do I need to own all of it? You know what I mean? Just because I had the capital, why does it mean that I should own all of it? There's a lot of people working their rear ends off. So I'm like looking at completely how to change the ownership structure of the company so that everybody owns it. So that wouldn't have happened unless this new perspective came along.
Wow.
Yeah, I can see that we're all growing as individuals in our own power, and appreciating more of the simple things. I know that for myself, appreciating, the simple things in life that you take for granted. COVID certainly has woken a lot of people up to really appreciating, being alive and having a family and having your home and having those things we just kind of take for granted. When you have this type of thing going on, it really wakes you up to being present in the moment and really sitting and looking around and going, wow, I'm really blessed I have this experience of life, because we just don't know when that's going to end, right? So it's helped us become more present in our life, to be able to appreciate life, and I think that raises the consciousness of the planet. And so I see there's a huge transformation happening globally, because we're all connected under this one Saint Corona that has come to teach us so many lessons and spark so many new entrepreneurial opportunities for people out there. And it's just so many blessings in it. Again, I think we can get caught looking at all the downsides and all the challenges of it. But if we can just stop and really ask those.
So I've been asking myself this question towards the end of last year. So what good came out of this whole experience that started to happen for us in my country from March in 2020? What good came out of it for me personally? And I was astounded. I'm really pleasantly surprised when I started to not look at the COVID blues, but the COVID blessings. And I started to ask that question to my clients, my loved ones. So what did you notice about your heart's desires? How did the COVID pandemic brought you closer to the fulfillment of your heart's desires? I want to give one example, for instance. My husband is an international businessman. He has an international business and he traveled a lot. And he would so often have this desire, I wish he could be home more. And then I got my wish. And he was home all the time, which was really, there is nothing, I never thought that it's going to be possible. Never knew that a virus will make that possible. So when we ask the question, and I want to just repeat it again, how did this pandemic, how is it bringing me closer to the fulfillment of what I desire? And when you start to look in your different parts of your life and different areas of your life, I think you're going to see something really surprising. And I want to also encourage that instead of talking about beating the COVID blues, to say celebrating the COVID support. Blessings, yes.
Can I just ask all of you, because I know all of you have children. I don't, but I have a lot of friends who have teenagers specifically who are struggling during this time. How are you as a parent, one, coping as a parent, and two, how are you helping your children cope with what's going on? Because I know it's a very difficult time, especially for the teenage age group where they usually are with their friends and exploring the outside world. So what's your take on that demographic?
Well, my kids are in their 20s, so I don't quite have that issue. But I will say that personally, I've seen them more through COVID than I have prior, because we've made extra. The things that they would normally do in their lives were shut down basically. So we were able to spend take that time that they would be doing those, and we would get together as a family and have more events together than we did. And I personally I love traveling and exploring and seeing different places, and I've taken more trips this year than I have in several years, just because it's there's less people traveling, and flights have been cheaper, and normally when you go to certain places there's a lot of crowds, and there hasn't been many crowds. And so I've seen some really blessings for my high values of traveling, exploring, with COVID. Drawback is you got to wear a mask, you got to follow some rules, jump through a few hoops. But again, for me personally, it's been a blessing for that. So I don't know who has teenage kids in here. Paul, it sounds like you have some teenage kids. That's a great question for you, sounds like.
Well, I usually do have teenage kids. I have 6, but I don't have any right now. I've got a 12-year-old. My adult kids, I think the big thing for me was to let them each know individually that I got you. Like, I'm here. And it gave me a time to remind them that when they're worried and they have anxiety about graduating college, or they're going to make their rent payment, I'm not a charity, but I'm here. I got you. Like, don't sweat. Don't worry about that stuff. Worry about more important things in your life. My little ones, I personally just FaceTime them every day. I've done that every day since February 4th last year. So I started before COVID as a habit. And so I've gotten to see them a little bit, but just making sure I called them every day was really important to me. And it's something I'm going to continue to do, so that they knew I was always there. And it's really spawned some amazing moments, because they moved to Florida, which was, tough on all of us. And prior to their move, I didn't spend a lot of time in their bedroom. We'd spend out time in like common areas. But now, because they have iPads and they're 1,300 miles away, their dad's face is literally a touch from a button. They can say, hey, I want to talk to dad. So I'm getting all these amazing conversations laying in bed with them. Like, I'm in my bed, they're in their bed, and we're talking about racism and history and evolution. I've got a 12-year-old that's very curious, and just being silly and playing video games. So, that was definitely one of them. In terms of what I'm doing to help them cope with it, probably not enough, really. I probably should be talking to them a little bit more about what they're going through. But we do talk about that, but I know one thing I've encouraged them to do is just get outside more and walk around. I think connecting with nature is good for all of us, and I think that is another benefit that we're seeing from COVID, especially here in the U.S. as national parks are being flooded with tourism that we've never seen before. So I think that, from my perspective, that is a positive thing for humanity.
Well, like, I have 4 children, and 2 are adults and 2 are deep in teenagehood, right? So 14 and a half and 16 and a half.
Oh, wow, they are deep in it.
Yeah. And when I use the word revelation very specifically because of them, this, being able to spend time with them in this way has been very profound, in a good and a hard way, right? Because there's so many things that they want to do, but not with you. But now Dad and I are the ones who are here with them. So, we're hiking more, we're dancing more, we're sharing, like, they're listening to music that we like. They're Joe, my husband, you guys will meet him one day. He's a huge Bob Dylan fan. So we've been, so, and we're doing jazz, we're trying to share with them, us, like every part of us. And then at the same time, there's this other stuff, right? Like, you're still a parent, you're still trying to guide them. They're both going to school from home. And we're having conversations about school. I'm being told when I'm in the middle of a Zoom, can I go get the dog because they're at school? Like, so there's this also shifting of responsibilities and roles. And they're cooking more, they're planning dinners. And so I think it's revelatory because we're not just their parents, we're also their peers, and they are ours, right? And that's a very, like, I didn't grow up like that. So that's a very different way. But I think also the positive is there's this cooperative relationship that is evolving with the kids, where they are making decisions themselves about what they want to do, and talking to us about it. And then because of our older sons who are in their 20s, not they live independently, we're actually connected to them a little bit more because of games and Zoom and FaceTime and all this sort of thing. And so we're in something. We're in something very interesting right now, I would say. It's very interesting. It's a new ecosystem in our family. It's a new ecosystem.
I think it's a brilliant one. I think, as a founder of a school, what's really made us successful and different, unfortunately different, hopefully it won't be in the future, is that we really see ourselves, the people the adults in the school, we see ourselves as really stewards of these children and helping them get to where they need to be as an adults, not in charge of them or making sure they do it in a certain way. So we're really open to like who they want to be. You get to be who you want to be, and we help hold them accountable. But it's also shifted my relationship with my children too. How often do you take the parenthood hat off? You got to. Your kids got to get to know you. I know this is a little bit off topic from COVID, but it's in line with children. So I love what you said, Shay, about your family is turning more into cooperative, because that's really what we want. Is we don't want obedient children. We want cooperative children that can make decisions for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Good on you.
Well, thank you. And I think one of the things we've done a lot more is talk about money, right? Like talk about work, talk about, responsibility and follow through on things. And they're watching us, right? They're not just, they're usually, when we're working, they are at school, but now they are in the house with us. And so I feel like this is just a very powerful learning period as well. And then the physical part is very important, like getting outside, going for walks. We're doing far more hiking. So I feel like we're doing a lot of, in Japan they call it the tree showers. Like we're going into the forest or forest showers, and we're being bathed by the oxygen of the trees, and we are having a very different life as a family than we had before, and that's because of COVID. And I think it's good. I think I don't think I imagined this, and it's very, very good in a way. And that doesn't mean it's perfect, but we're working through it together.
So Jay, it's absolutely wonderful that you have that new ecosystem in your family. But there are many parents who are really challenged by their teenagers, because teenagers are social beings. So they want to be with their friends.
Exactly.
Although parents are hugely important to a teenager, for a teenager, their friends are in fact more important, and it's a big challenge. They cannot just go and socialize freely with their friends. But I am encouraging parents who get charged by the children being so much on social media with their friends. Say that is their form while we are in this pandemic time and there are lockdowns, that if that is the form that they are connecting with their friends, then you have to allow that.
Yeah.
Because it's beautiful when they get closer to us as parents and for us when we get closer to them. But they still need that connection with their peer groups, with their friends.
100% they need it. They need
Right.
it. And I think, this is why also, this is also the delicate balance between, how much time are they on social media or relating to their friends? And are you like, what's your job in managing, or not managing that? And I mean, I think both the kids are having very strong relationships with their friends, but also their siblings that are separate from us. And I think we have to be like, we kind of, sometimes I feel like we have to step away from that and say, you go do your thing, and because they need that independent space. 100% agree with you.
Yeah, great point. I think another thing I've noticed in the health field is there's been a really big surge in the importance of keeping our immune systems healthy, our health and well-being, and how do we do that effectively now even more that this COVID is out there. So I've noticed that there's been so many people that are becoming more and more health conscious now than ever before, and trying to find their own ways of keeping their immune system strong to help them prevent. So I think it's one of the things that we could probably discuss here as well is what are some of the things that you've seen in yourself and in your life that you can help build your immune system. I know as practitioner for 28 years, you go back to the basics, which is make sure you're eating a nice healthy balanced diet, and make sure you're hydrating properly, getting outside and breathing and walking and exercising and doing some breath work and getting out in nature. Everyone has their own recipe that makes them feel great and builds their system. And I think that it is an individualized thing. So what are some things that you guys can share with the community here around strategies to keep your system healthy and prevent these kind of processes from happening?
Well, I'm all about nature.
Yeah.
So I'll say, I spend quite a bit of time with my two dogs and my husband, and we do quite a bit of hiking. Even if it's just sitting outside with the snow and feeling the coolness on your face, that's enough to wake you up and to feel presence, right? And I think it's important just to be at this time rather than to think a lot about what the future entails or how are you going to deal with this issue or that issue. I feel it's important to put your feet on the ground, feel the earth, and to really appreciate the nature that surrounds us. So, obviously the eating healthy and, drinking lots of water and getting enough sleep, but we hear that all the time. So how do you incorporate that into your life? How do you eat healthier? I've learned to just listen to my body. I eat when I'm hungry. If I crave salt, I'll eat something savory. If I crave sweets, I'll eat something sweet because my body is telling me what it needs. And so I'm in tune to what it's telling me, what it's informing me. So then I will make sure that I eat regularly and what my body craves. Obviously, I'm not going to reach in and eat the entire candy bar or eat a whole bag of potato chips. But if my body says go grab a couple of potato chips, I'll do it. I'll do it because that's what it's telling me. Yeah. But
good. Yeah. Obviously moderation is important, and I think one of the greatest things we can do for our immune systems is if you're not doing enough of what you love doing, then start doing more of what you love. So take an inventory of your life and ask that question: Am I going to spend more time doing my love tos? Am I doing a lot of things that I've got to or have to do? My experience, when people are doing the got tos and have to, and their immune systems are weaker because their mindset. So shift that into the love twos, and I think you see an increase in your immune system, and there's less opportunity and time to be ill when you're doing what you love doing. So that's what I share with people. So what about you, Shay?
Well, yoga is a huge part of my life, and I'm one of these old school yogis. It's not about the headstand for me. There's thousands of yoga poses, things that you do with your torso and your stomach muscles and strengthening your posture. I bike, and I go for hikes, and of course I have a little guru in my home. His name is Finn. He has 4 legs. He's an Aussie, and he every time he sees that I'm sitting too much, he comes and gives me a little nip and says, "Let's go." And so I've just found that exercise, like as a way to start my day, is essential for my brain to function really well. So sleep is also really critical for me. I'm not great with, I don't need a lot of sleep, but I have to sleep at night for at least 6 hours. And my food habits have changed during COVID. I also found with grief, um, I kept saying I had gestational grief, where in the beginning I just wanted to eat everything, and then I just wanted to eat things that my mom and I ate together. And now all of a sudden and then I did an inventory and looked at everything, and now I'm almost a vegetarian now. So it's very interesting, what you're going through. I just feel like paying attention and moving your body, sleeping your body, resting your body. This is just such a powerful time for all of that, and it works when you pay attention.
Exactly. Thank you for that. What
Yeah,
about you?
I agree with all of that. I am a firm believer in exercise. I've been doing exercises almost daily for the last 40 years of my life, and I can see every time I've done that, that was a small deposit I made into sustainable health, and also to manage your anxieties and stress, because that again made your body too acidic, and that is an invitation for any illness to come and see you as a host. So it's all the things, enough sleep, healthy eating, exercise. I do believe in the importance to manage stress and unhappiness and anxiety and your negative reactions towards challenges.
Right. How about you, Paul?
Sleep and moving my body. Those are definitely the 2. I guess the 3rd is I paint, so something creative. But if I'm not doing well on those 3, then I go down pretty fast, or I'm susceptible to get sick.
Yeah. I think everybody has their own combination of what works for them that makes them feel, have that vitality and just feel great. And so it's about learning how to tap into that throughout this time where we have a lot of extra time, on to ourselves. I've seen so many people that have taken advantage of this time to really start fitness programs and start eating better and learning how to cook again, at home, because we're not going out to eat as much. So people are learning, what works for them and what doesn't work for them. So, it's important to take that time to really go into you and what you've been sticking.
Upsie.
Did we just lose Dave?
Uh-oh.
Yes, we did.
Okay. Well,
It gets kind of stuff.
we're reaching the hour. Dr. Dave, can you hear us?
Yeah.
There you are.
I was just nattering away.
How about you just left us early? We're reaching the hours, so I thought, oh, okay. He didn't want to be here anymore.
I was nattering on. So anyway, I'm not sure what you heard or not.
Do you want to finish what you were saying? Complete your thought process there?
I think the point of it was right now people are having an opportunity to take a time to really learn more about who they are and what works for them health wise. People are starting to cook. They're cooking in more, and so it's about paying attention to your when your body gives you those symptoms that you're about.
Okay, Dave is going in and out here. So we might end it on that note, unless someone has something just that they want to share right before we sign off here.
I do think that, taking time to be, whether it's prayer or meditation or being more mindful, just practicing some silence, even though we have a lot more time. I think where we just don't feel like we don't have to do anything is really valuable to our spirit, just so that we have some time to hear ourselves and reset.
Yeah. And start being more instead of doing more, right?
Yes.
We get so caught up in doing. And I think one thing COVID's done is it's forced us to just be more, which I think is beautiful for everyone to learn how to sit in the being and not so much in the doing. So,
but I find most people, I don't know about most people, but a lot of people don't know what that means to be.
Yeah. Well, this. Oh, sorry. You go ahead. Go
ahead, ladies.
I think this is why, we make a big deal out of some of the contemplative practices, the wisdom traditions. Like you need to be in a special place and have a candle, and you don't need any of those things. You need to have the confidence, and that's being that, like, from just a structural level, learning to just sit with yourself is being, and that when you sit with yourself, then you have room to meet yourself. The issue is that many of us don't like what we're meeting, or we're afraid to meet ourselves. And one of the challenges of COVID is the amount of time people now have to be with themselves, and they've spent so much time doing that they're uncomfortable. They're really uncomfortable. And so, I actually, I teach meditation, but I often don't use the word meditation when I teach or train or coach people, because sometimes people are so attached to this word that, oh my God, I have to be by myself and wait for something transformational to happen. You are the transformation. You just being alive is transformation. It's what you do with it, and can you learn to be silent with yourself? That's my sort of humble perspective on it. Can you just sit with yourself, and whatever rises, stand with yourself, whatever rises, walk with yourself, whatever rises, listen and pay attention to that.
Well said. Great.
Well said, yes.
All right. Well, I think unless anyone else has any closing comments, it's been phenomenal. Our very first panel discussion. Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure being a part of here.
Thank you.
Good to see you all.
I think next month, Ilze is going to be covering relationships and leading that panel discussion. So that should be a good one as well.
Amazing.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us.
Bye, my friends. Be well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.